Thomas Reed ran his hand across the wooden table surface one more time. Smooth, perfect, every grain aligned just right. He should have felt proud, but the emptiness inside him swallowed any satisfaction before it could take root. 3 years had passed since Marion died, and nothing seemed to matter anymore. He built furniture because his hands remembered how, not because his heart cared. The sun dipped low over Redstone Valley, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Thomas sat on his workshop porch watching the colors fade. Other colonists walked past on their way home. They waved. He nodded back. Nobody stopped to talk anymore. They used to right after Marion passed, but sympathy had an expiration date, and his had long since expired. His workshop stood at the edge of the human settlement, close enough to be part of the colony but far enough that he could pretend he lived alone. The Draen neighborhood started just past the hill to the east. He could see their red stone buildings from here, built taller and wider than human homes. Dragon-like aliens with scales and wings. They had lived on this world long before humans arrived. Peaceful folks mostly. They kept to themselves, and humans did the same. Thomas noticed her about 3 weeks ago. A small Draken child, copper-red scales catching the light, playing near the border between neighborhoods. She collected rocks and sticks, building little structures that fell apart, then building them again. Sometimes she watched him work through his open workshop door. He pretended not to notice. Children made him ache in a different way. He and Marion never had any. There had been plans, of course. There were always plans. The child appeared again now, climbing over the small fence that marked where human territory became shared ground. She carried something in her clawed hands. Thomas looked away, hoping she would pass by. Children usually feared him, the sad man who never smiled. But her footsteps came closer, light taps on the wooden porch steps. "Excuse me, sir," she said. Her voice was high and clear, speaking human language with a slight hiss on the S sounds. "You look sad. Would you like to meet my mother?" Thomas turned to face her. Up close, she looked about 8 years old in human terms, though he knew Draken age differently. Her eyes were large and golden, full of the kind of innocent curiosity that hadn't yet learned when to look away from pain. Small wings folded against her back, not large enough for flight yet. She held out a smooth river stone, offering it to him. "I'm fine," Thomas said, his voice rough from disuse. "Thank you." "You don't look fine," the child insisted. She climbed up onto the porch uninvited, sitting down next to his chair. "You look like my mama did after Papa died. Very, very sad." Like the light went out, Thomas felt something crack inside his chest. "I'm sorry about your father. It was a long time ago. 5 whole years." She placed the stone on the porch railing. "Mama says grief is like carrying a heavy rock. You can put it down sometimes, but you have to remember where you left it. You look like you've been carrying yours for too long. Your arms must be tired." What kind of child talked like this? Thomas studied her face. Honest, direct. Draken culture valued truth over comfort, he remembered. They didn't dance around difficult subjects the way humans often did. "What's your name?" he asked. "Ember, because my scales are fire-colored." "What's yours?" "Thomas. That's a nice name, strong, solid." Ember swung her legs, her tail curling around the chair leg for balance. "My mama helps people who are sad. She's very good at it. She helped lots of Draken after the mine accident. She could help you too." "I don't need help," Thomas said, but the words felt hollow even to him. "Everybody needs help sometimes," Ember replied. "That's what makes us not alone. Mama says being alone is the worst kind of sad, because you carry all the rocks by yourself." Thomas looked at this strange child who had wandered into his life with her wisdom and her stones. Something about her earnest face, the way she looked at him without pity but with understanding, made his carefully built walls feel thinner. "Why do you care?" he asked. "You don't know me." "I watched you work," Ember said. "You make beautiful things with wood. Tables and chairs and toys. But you never smile when you finish them. My papa used to say that if you make something and don't feel happy about it, you're putting sadness into the wood. I don't think you want to do that. I think you want to feel happy again, but forgot how." The truth of it hit Thomas harder than he expected. When had he last felt anything besides empty? "Your mother wouldn't want to meet a stranger," he said weakly. "She told me that if I ever met someone who looked lost, I should bring them home. She says lost people need finding." Ember hopped off the porch. Our house is the big red one with the blue door and the Draken quarter. The one with the flower garden. Come tomorrow, please? Mama makes really good tea. It's spicy but good. Thomas opened his mouth to refuse. The word no sat ready on his tongue, but those golden eyes looked at him with such hope, such certainty that he was worth helping, that the refusal died unspoken. Maybe, he heard himself say. Ember's face lit up like sunrise. Maybe means yes if you're too scared to say yes. That's okay. Being scared is normal. I'll tell Mama you're coming. Tomorrow after midday. She didn't wait for confirmation, just waved and ran off toward the Draken neighborhood, her small wings flapping excitedly even though they couldn't lift her yet. Thomas sat alone again as darkness settled over the valley. The stone Ember left behind sat on the railing, smooth and solid. He picked it up. It was warm from the day's heat. He turned it over in his palm, feeling its weight. Maybe, he thought. Maybe tomorrow he would go meet a dragon mother who helped sad people. Maybe tomorrow he would try just for a moment to put down the rock he had been carrying for 3 long years. The stars came out one by one. For the first time in longer than he could remember, Thomas didn't spend the evening drowning in memories of what he had lost. Instead, he wondered what tomorrow might bring. It was a small thing, hope. Barely a flicker. But it was something. And something was more than nothing had been. Thomas spent the morning working on a cabinet order, but his mind kept drifting to the blue door and spicy tea. 3 times he decided not to go. 3 times he found himself cleaning up his workspace anyway, changing into a cleaner shirt, checking his reflection in the window glass. At midday, he stood in his workshop holding a small wooden bird he had carved years ago. Marion had loved his carvings. This one never sold, because he could never bring himself to part with it. Now he wrapped it carefully in cloth. A gift for the child, only polite. The walk to the Draken quarter took 15 minutes. The buildings here rose higher than human construction, built from the red stone that gave the valley its name. Doorways stood taller and wider to accommodate wings and tails. Draken walked the streets in small groups, their scales reflecting sunlight in dozens of colors. Green, blue, bronze, silver. They glanced at Thomas but didn't stare. Humans came here sometimes for trade or business. The house with the blue door sat at the end of a curved street. Ember hadn't exaggerated about the garden. Flowers Thomas didn't recognize bloomed in shades of purple and gold, arranged in careful patterns. The door itself was painted the deep blue of evening sky, with silver symbols carved around the frame. Draken writing. He couldn't read it. Before he could knock, the door opened. Ember stood there, bouncing on her feet. You came. Mama said maybe you wouldn't, but I knew you would. Come in, come in. She grabbed his hand with her clawed fingers, careful not to scratch, and pulled him inside. The interior was warmer than human homes, with high ceilings and wide spaces. Cushions instead of chairs, woven tapestries on the walls showing Draken history. A fireplace burned even though the day was mild. Draken liked heat. Ember, let our guest breathe, a voice said. Deep and melodic, with the same slight hiss on certain sounds. The woman who entered from the side room took Thomas's breath away. Not because of beauty, though she was striking in an alien way, but because of presence. She moved with grace and certainty, her deep crimson scales edged with gold that caught the firelight. Older than Ember by decades, with knowing eyes that seemed to see through him. Her wings, far larger than her daughter's, were folded neatly against her back. Welcome to our home, Thomas Reed, she said, pressing her clawed hand briefly to her forehead in what he recognized as Draken greeting. I am Solara. Ember spoke of you with great concern. Thomas awkwardly returned the gesture, feeling clumsy. Thank you for having me. I brought something for Ember. He unwrapped the wooden bird, offering it to the child. Ember's eyes went huge. She took it carefully, turning it over in her hands. It's beautiful. Look, Mama, look at the wings. They're perfect. Thomas is a craftsman, Solara said, studying him with those penetrating eyes. A maker of things. We value such skills highly. Please sit. I will bring tea. She gestured to the cushions arranged around a low table. Thomas sat awkwardly, unused to floor seating. Ember plopped down next to him, still examining the bird with delight. Solara disappeared into another room, returning moments later with a tray holding 3 cups and a steaming pot. The tea smelled spicy and sharp, nothing like the mild blends humans preferred. Thomas sipped carefully. Heat exploded across his tongue, making his eyes water. Not painful, but intense. Solara smiled, showing teeth. Too strong? It's different, Thomas managed. Good. Just surprising. Many things between our peoples are surprising, Solara said, pouring her own cup. We are still learning each other. Ember tells me you carry great sadness, that you have forgotten how to put it down. The directness startled him. Humans would have talked around the subject for an hour first, building up to it slowly. Your daughter is very perceptive. She has seen grief up close, Solara said quietly. Her father died 5 years ago. Mining accident. The tunnel collapsed. 7 Draken died that day. Ember was very young, but she remembers her papa. She remembers my sadness too. I'm sorry, Thomas said, and meant it. As I am sorry for your loss, Solara replied. Ember saw your wife's picture in your workshop window. The small frame you keep near your tools. She did not mention it to you because she thought it might hurt. But she told me. 3 years ago, yes? Thomas nodded, not trusting his voice. Grief is fire, Solara said. This is what we teach Draken children. Fire can warm you through cold nights. Fire can cook your food and light your darkness. But if you let it burn uncontrolled, it consumes everything. You must tend it properly. Feed it, but also contain it. Honor it, but do not let it rule you. Humans think about it differently, Thomas said. We hold on to those we lost. Keep them close. Some people say we should let go and move on. But that feels like forgetting, like betraying them. And so you carry the rock, Solara said, never putting it down. Growing tired, but never resting. How else do I honor her memory? Solara set down her cup. By living fully. By continuing to create beauty. By finding new connections, new love, new purpose. The dead do not want us to die with them. They want us to carry their lessons forward into life. This is what I believe. This is what helped me survive. Ember leaned against her mother. Mama cried every night for a whole year. I heard her. But then she started helping other people who were sad. She said Papa would want her to use her sadness to make other people less sad. Like turning fire into light. Thomas felt tears on his face before he realized he was crying. He hadn't cried since the funeral. Hadn't let himself. Now sitting in this warm room with these strange, kind beings, something broke open inside him. Solara moved closer, not touching him, but near enough that he felt her warmth. Let it out, Thomas Reed. Fire held inside burns worse than fire released. We do not judge tears here. We honor them, he cried for Marion. For the life they never got to live. For the children they never had. For 3 years of emptiness and going through motions. For the man he used to be who could laugh and love and hope. It all poured out in harsh, ugly sobs that shook his whole body. Ember climbed into his lap, wrapping her small arms around him. She said nothing, just held on. Her scales were warm. Her tail curled around his arm. After a moment, he felt Solara's hand on his shoulder, steady and strong. They sat like that until the storm passed. Until Thomas could breathe again. Until the tears stopped and something like peace settled over him. I'm sorry, he whispered. Never apologize for grief honestly expressed, Solara said firmly. That is the first step. Acknowledging the fire. Now we teach you to tend it properly. Why are you helping me? Thomas asked. You don't know me. Because you need help, Solara said simply. Because Ember saw you and felt connection. Because I know what it is to be lost in grief. Because this is what we do. Draken believe we are all connected. Your pain affects the whole community, even if you do not see it. When we heal one, we heal all. Thomas looked at this dragon woman and her child. These aliens who had shown him more compassion in one afternoon than he had felt in years. What do I do now? Now? Solara smiled. Now you come back tomorrow, the day after. As many days as you need. I will teach you what I know about grief. And perhaps you will teach Ember about woodworking. She has been begging to learn. Really? Ember's head popped up. You'll teach me? Thomas found himself smiling. Actually smiling. If your mother allows it. Then it is settled, Solara said. 3 days a week, Ember will come to your workshop after her lessons. And you will come here when you need to talk. Or even when you do not need to talk. Sometimes presence is enough. Thomas left an hour later with an empty cup, a lighter heart, and something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Purpose. Connection. The beginning of hope. As he walked back to his workshop, he realized he was already planning what to teach Ember first. How to measure wood. How to feel the grain. How to create something beautiful from raw materials. Maybe, he thought. That was what Solara was teaching him too. How to create something beautiful from the raw materials of grief. How to build a new life from the broken pieces of the old one. Marion would have liked that idea. She always said the best things came from the hardest challenges. The wooden bird sat on Ember's shelf now, keeping watch over a child who had lost her father but found ways to keep flying anyway. Thomas thought that was a good metaphor for what he needed to do. Learn to fly again even with broken wings. 6 weeks changed everything. Ember arrived at Thomas's workshop every second day after her schooling, bursting through the door with energy that filled every corner. She talked constantly while she worked, chattering about her lessons, her friends, the strange beetle she found, the cloud that looked like a fish. Thomas discovered that silence wasn't the only way to work. Sometimes noise helped too. Sometimes laughter made the wood easier to shape. He made her special tools, smaller saws with guards, lighter hammers, sanding blocks that fit her clawed hands. She was clumsy at first, measuring wrong, cutting crooked, gluing things backwards. But she never got discouraged. She just tried again, her tongue sticking out between her teeth in concentration. Very human-like, that expression. Some things crossed species. Slower, Thomas said, guiding her hands as she used the saw. Let the tool do the work. Don't force it. Wood has its own way of wanting to split. You have to feel it. Feel it how? Ember asked, pausing mid-cut. Close your eyes. Run your fingers along the grain. See how it flows? That's the direction the tree grew. The wood remembers. It wants to split that way, not against it. Ember closed her eyes, feeling the wood with her sensitive scales. Oh, I feel it. It's like water flowing in one direction. Exactly, Thomas said, and felt a surge of satisfaction that had nothing to do with his own work. Teaching was its own reward. Solara came to collect Ember when lessons ended. At first she stayed only minutes, but gradually the minutes stretched longer. She and Thomas would share tea on the porch, watching the sunset, talking about small things. The weather, the colony news, how Ember's project was progressing. Safe topics that slowly gave way to deeper ones. Walk with me, Solara said one evening. There is something I want to show you. They left Ember practicing her sanding technique and walked into the hills beyond the settlements. The path wound through red rock formations and scattered trees. Solara moved with grace even on rough terrain, her tail providing balance. Thomas stumbled more but kept pace. She led him to a cliff edge overlooking the valley. Both settlements spread below, human and Draen, separate but neighboring. The sun set behind distant mountains, painting everything gold. This is where I came every night after my mate died, Solara said. I would stand here and scream. Let the wind take my anger and pain. Let the empty sky swallow my tears. I thought about jumping, many times. But Ember needed me, so I screamed instead until I had no voice left, then went home and pretended to be strong. Thomas looked at her with new understanding. No one knew. Draen are proud. We show strength to our community, but pride is another kind of fire. It burns you from inside where no one can see. She sat on the cliff edge, dangling her legs over empty air. You taught me something about humans these past weeks. What's that? Thomas sat beside her, less comfortable with the height but trusting her judgment. You hold on to pain longer than we do. Draen philosophy says let grief burn bright and fast, then release it. But humans carry it differently. You integrate it, make it part of who you are. I thought this was weakness at first. Now I think it is strength. How is carrying pain strength? Because you do not let it destroy you, Solara said. You transform it. You told me about your wife Marion, how she loved gardens, so you started planting flowers around your workshop. Small thing, yes? But you took pain and made beauty from it. You did not forget her. You honored her by continuing what she loved. Thomas looked down at his hands, rough from work, scarred from years of small cuts and accidents. I still miss her every day. Of course you do. Love does not end with death. But you are learning to miss her while also living. This is what I struggled to learn. How to honor my mate while also moving forward. You humans understand this naturally. You are very old souls in young bodies. We're a young species compared to most in the galaxy, Thomas said. Young in years, old in wisdom about pain. Solara turned to look at him, her golden eyes reflecting the sunset. We Draen live longer than humans. We have more time to heal, but you humans have less time, so you learn to heal while still living. You cannot afford to waste years in grief. This is remarkable. They sat in comfortable silence as stars began appearing. Thomas felt something shift between them. The friendship that had grown over weeks was becoming something else. Something deeper. He both wanted it and feared it. "I feel guilty," he admitted quietly, "for enjoying your company, for looking forward to seeing you, like I'm betraying Marion's memory." "Did Marion want you to be alone forever?" "No, she made me promise, actually. In the hospital near the end. Made me swear I would keep living, find happiness again. I promised, but I didn't think I could keep it." "And now?" Solara asked. "Now I think maybe I can. Maybe I am." He looked at her. "Does that make me a bad person?" "It makes you human," Solara said gently. "It makes you someone honoring a promise to someone you loved. There is no betrayal in healing. Your wife would be angry if she could see how you punished yourself these 3 years." Thomas laughed, surprising himself. "She would. Marion didn't tolerate self-pity. She'd hit me with a wooden spoon and tell me to stop being dramatic. I would have liked her," Solara said. "She would have liked you too. She always said I needed friends who would tell me hard truths instead of letting me sulk. Then I honor her memory by doing exactly that." Solara stood, offering her hand to help him up. "Come, Ember will wonder if we got lost." Walking back, Thomas felt lighter. The rock he carried was still there, but it no longer crushed him. He was learning to carry it properly, like Solara said. With balance. With acceptance. Back at the workshop, they found Ember had finished sanding her project, a small box with a lid. Rough still, but recognizable. She beamed with pride. "I made it for you, Mama," she said, presenting it to Solara. "To keep your important things in." Solara took the box carefully, examining it with serious attention. "The corners are almost square. The lid fits well. This is good work, little flame." Ember glowed with happiness, literally. Her scales brightened slightly, a Draen trait when experiencing strong emotion. She hugged Thomas's leg. "Thank you for teaching me." "You're a good student," Thomas said, ruffling the small crest on her head. Over the following weeks, the pattern continued. Ember learned and grew. Thomas taught and healed. Solara guided them both. The colony began noticing changes. The sad human Carpenter smiled now. Laughed sometimes. Took on new projects with enthusiasm instead of mechanical duty. Some colonists approved. Others muttered about humans getting too friendly with aliens. Thomas ignored them. He had spent 3 years listening to his own dark thoughts. Other people's opinions seemed small by comparison. One day, Ember arrived at the workshop crying. Thomas immediately knelt down. "What happened?" "Some kids at school," she sobbed. "They said Mama shouldn't be friends with a human. They said it's weird. They said you're just a sad alien who needs a dragon to fix you." Anger flared in Thomas's chest. "Those kids are wrong. But what if they're right? What if you're only nice to us because you're broken?" Thomas took her shoulders gently. "Ember, look at me. Yes, I was sad. Very sad. But you're Mama and you didn't fix me. You helped me fix myself. There's a difference. And friendship isn't weird. Friendship is what happens when people see each other, really see each other, and decide they want to be part of each other's lives. Species doesn't matter." "Really? Really? I'm not friends with your Mama because she's Draken. I'm friends with her because she's wise and kind and honest. I'm friends with you because you're curious and brave and you make me laugh. Those are the things that matter." Ember wiped her eyes, leaving small scratches on her scales. "The other kids just don't understand." "Then maybe we show them," Thomas said. An idea was forming. Risky, but worth it. "How would you like to help me with a special project? Something for the whole colony?" Ember's eyes brightened. "What kind of project?" "You'll see. First, I need to talk to your Mama." That evening, Thomas presented his idea to Solara, a collaborative artwork for the upcoming Founding Day Festival. Something that showed both species working together. Something that honored all the colonists who had died, human and Draken alike. Solara listened, her expression thoughtful. "This would be visible public. People would see us working together." "Yes," Thomas said. "That's the point. Show them that bridges between peoples aren't just possible, they're beautiful. Some will not approve. Probably. But hiding doesn't change minds. Creating something meaningful might." Solara smiled, showing her teeth. "You are braver than you think, Thomas Reed. Very well. Let us build this bridge together." The Colony Council met in the community hall, a neutral building between the human and Draken quarters. Thomas had never attended a council meeting before. He sat in the back row, hands sweating, watching council members file in. 5 humans, 5 Draken, working together to manage the colony. Most of them knew him only as the quiet carpenter who delivered orders on time and never caused trouble. Council leader Patterson, a gray-haired woman who had helped found the colony 20 years ago, called the meeting to order. They discussed water rights, trade routes, maintenance schedules, pouring administrative details that made Thomas question why he had come. Then Patterson looked directly at him. "Thomas Reed has requested time to propose something for Founding Day. Thomas, please come forward." Every eye turned to him. Thomas stood on shaky legs and walked to the front. Celara sat in the audience, giving him an encouraging nod. Ember bounced in her seat beside her mother. "Thank you for hearing me," Thomas began, his voice barely steady. "I want to propose a memorial sculpture for Founding Day. Something to honor all colonists we've lost, both human and Draken. A collaborative piece that shows our two peoples working together." Councillor Davies, a stocky human man, frowned. "We already have memorials. Separate ones. Why do we need another?" "Because separate means divided," Thomas said, finding his courage. "We live in the same colony. We trade, we share resources, we help each other during emergencies. But socially, we stay apart. Humans in one area, Draken in another. We're polite neighbors, not true community." "There is wisdom in maintaining cultural boundaries," said Councillor Therax, an elderly Draken with silver scales. "We respect human ways. Humans respect Draken ways. This keeps peace, it keeps distance," Thomas countered. "Peace and distance aren't the same thing. I'm proposing we create something beautiful together. I'll handle the woodwork. Celara and other Draken artisans can contribute metalwork and fire forging. We combine our skills into one piece that represents unity." "And what makes you qualified to speak about unity?" Davies asked. "You barely spoke to anyone for 3 years. Now suddenly you're friends with dragons and want to change how the colony works." The dismissive tone stung, but Thomas held his ground. "You're right. I isolated myself. I was wrong to do that. But Celara and Ember showed me that connection across differences isn't just possible. It's necessary. We're stronger together than separate. This sculpture would prove it." Patterson leaned forward. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A monument in the central square. Wooden panels carved with scenes of both human and Draken history. How we each came to this world. The challenges we faced. The people we lost. All of it woven together with metalwork that represents our shared present and future. Something both beautiful and meaningful." The council members murmured among themselves. Celara stood. "If I may speak?" Thomas approached me with this idea. "I have consulted with Draken artisans. Many are interested. This could be an opportunity to showcase the best of both peoples. Or it could be a disaster," Davies said. "Mixing our art forms, our histories. Some things should stay separate." "Why?" Thomas asked. "What are we afraid of? That we might actually understand each other better? That our children might grow up seeing each other as neighbors instead of strangers?" Bold words from someone who only recently emerged from his shell, Therax said, but his tone wasn't entirely critical. "However, I see merit in this proposal. Our young ones do remain unnecessarily distant. Perhaps this sculpture could serve as a teaching tool." The debate continued for another 20 minutes. Thomas answered questions about timeline, budget, design. He had done his homework, sketched preliminary plans, consulted with other artisans. This wasn't a whim. This was thought out and genuine. Finally, Patterson called for a vote. All in favor of approving this collaborative memorial sculpture for Founding Day? 6 hands raised, 4 opposed. The margin was narrow, but it was enough. "Motion passes," Patterson said. "Thomas Reed is approved to coordinate this project. However, any problems, any conflicts, and we reserve the right to cancel it. Understood?" "Understood," Thomas said, relief flooding through him. "Thank you." Outside the hall, Ember tackled him with a hug. "You did it!" "We're going to make something amazing." "We haven't even started yet," Thomas laughed. "The hard part comes now." Celara approached, pride evident in her expression. "You spoke well. With conviction. I did not know you had that fire in you." "Neither did I," Thomas admitted. "Turns out I just needed a reason to find it." Work began the next day. Thomas cleared space in his workshop for the project. Other artisans arrived to help, both human and Draken. The workshop that had been silent for years suddenly filled with activity. Voices, the sounds of creation. Thomas coordinated the efforts, sketching designs, directing cuts, solving problems as they arose. Silara brought Draken metalworkers who shaped support structures with techniques humans had never seen. They heated metal with their own fire breath, bending it with precise control that no human furnace could match. The metal glowed red, then cooled into flowing shapes that looked organic, alive. Ember helped with small details, sanding edges, organizing tools, keeping everyone supplied with water during hot days. She became the unofficial mascot of the project. Her enthusiasm infectious. This part represents when the first human ship landed, Thomas explained to a Draken artisan named Kess. Can you create a metal framework that looks like it's supporting the wooden panel? Like both species supporting each other? Kess studied the design. I can do this. It will require careful heating, but yes, the metal will embrace the wood without burning it. Perfect. Days blurred together. Thomas worked longer hours than he had in years, but he wasn't tired. He was energized. This project meant something. Every carved panel, every piece of metal, every collaborative decision brought the vision closer to reality. The colony watched with mixed reactions. Some came by to observe, offering encouragement. Others muttered criticisms just loud enough to be heard. The divisions Thomas hoped to bridge were evident in every reaction. 2 weeks into the project, Thomas arrived at his workshop to find vandalism. Someone had carved words into the wooden panels during the night. Human trash, scale lover. The beautiful scenes he had spent days carving were defaced, ruined. Ember found it first. Her screams brought Thomas running. She stood in the workshop doorway, tears streaming down her face, looking at the destruction. Who would do this? She sobbed. It was so beautiful. Why would someone destroy it? Thomas felt rage and despair war inside him. Weeks of work destroyed in one night of hatred. He knelt beside Ember, wanting to comfort her but having no words. Silara arrived minutes later, summoned by a neighbor who heard Ember's cries. She took in the damage with narrowed eyes. Small wisps of smoke curled from her nostrils, a sign of barely controlled anger in Draken. This is my fault, Thomas said. I pushed too hard, too fast. I should have known this would happen. No, Silara said firmly. This is the fault of whoever did this. Do not take ownership of others' hatred. She examined the carvings, running her claws along the defaced wood. The damage is extensive but not complete. We can repair this. How? There's not enough time before the festival. And even if we fix it, what's to stop them from destroying it again? Then we guard it, Silara said. Day and night. We do not let fear and hatred win. Thomas looked at the ruined work, at Ember's tear-stained face, at Silara's fierce determination. Marion's voice echoed in his memory. Build something beautiful from the ruins. You're right, he said slowly. We don't give up. We fix this, and we make it stronger. How? Ember asked. Thomas studied the vandalism with new eyes. We incorporate it, leave the scars visible but add to them, show damage and repair, hate and healing, all as part of the story. Make it more honest. More real, Silara smiled, showing all her teeth. Now you think like Draken. Face fire with fire, hatred with love. They worked through the night, redesigning sections, adding new elements that acknowledged the vandalism while transcending it. Other artisans arrived as word spread, human and Draken both, offering help. The workshop became a statement of solidarity against whoever had tried to destroy their work. By dawn, the piece was not just repaired but improved. The scars of hatred became part of a larger story about overcoming division. Thomas stepped back, exhausted but satisfied. It's better now, Ember said, holding his hand. It tells a true story. That bad things happen, but we fix them together. Yes, Thomas said. That's exactly what it says, but he knew this wasn't over. Whoever vandalized the sculpture wouldn't be happy with this response. The real test would come at the festival, when the piece was unveiled publicly. Thomas could only hope that the message of unity would speak louder than the voices of division. Founding Day arrived with clear skies and warm winds. The colony's central square transformed overnight with colorful banners, food stalls, and a stage for speeches and performances. Children ran between booths while adults gathered in clusters, human and Draken groups still mostly separate but sharing space. The memorial sculpture stood in the square's center, covered by a large cloth waiting for the official unveiling ceremony. Thomas had barely slept in 3 days. He and several volunteers had taken turns guarding the workshop, then guarding the sculpture after they moved it to the square. No more vandalism occurred, but Thomas felt the tension in the air. Opposition to the project had grown louder as the festival approached. Angry letters to the colony newsletter. Heated arguments in the market. The division he hoped to bridge seemed to have widened instead. "You look nervous," Solara said, appearing beside him. She wore formal Draken attire, flowing fabric decorated with her family's colors. Ember bounced at her side in a smaller version of the same outfit. "I'm terrified," Thomas admitted. "What if this makes things worse? What if people hate it?" "Then they hate it," Solara said calmly. "But at least we tried. At least we said that building bridges matters more than building walls. The outcome is less important than the attempt." "Easy for you to say. You're not the one giving the speech. You will do fine. Speak from the heart. That is all anyone can do." The ceremony began at midday. Patterson took the stage, giving the traditional Founding Day address about the colony's history, thanking pioneers, acknowledging challenges overcome. Then she introduced Thomas. Walking onto the stage felt like walking through fire. Every eye in the square focused on him. Hundreds of colonists, human and Draken, waiting to judge his words and his work. Thomas's hands shook as he gripped the podium. 3 years ago, I lost my wife Marion to the plague that swept through our colony," he began, his voice barely steady. "In my grief, I became a ghost. I existed, but I didn't live. I built furniture because my hands remembered how, but I felt nothing. I spoke to no one. I cared about nothing. I was alone in a crowd, drowning in pain that I couldn't share because I had forgotten how to connect with anyone." The crowd was silent now, listening. Thomas saw faces he recognized. Neighbors, customers, people who had tried to reach out while he pushed them away. Then a Draken child asked me a simple question. "Would you like to meet my mother?" I almost said no. I almost stayed locked in my grief forever. But I said yes, and that yes changed everything. He gestured to Solara and Ember in the front row. "Solara and Ember taught me that grief doesn't have to be carried alone. That connection across differences isn't just possible. It's necessary. That we are stronger together than separate." Thomas stepped away from the podium, moving to the covered sculpture. "This memorial represents everyone we've lost, human and Draken, because death doesn't care about species. Loss doesn't care about culture. Grief is universal. But so is hope. So is healing. So is the choice to build something beautiful from pain." He pulled the cloth away. The sculpture stood revealed. Wooden panels carved with intricate scenes showed both species' histories, intertwining, supporting each other. Metal framework created by Draken fireforging embraced the wood, two materials becoming one cohesive piece. The vandalism scars were visible but integrated, showing damage and repair as part of the story. Gasps rippled through the crowd, some in appreciation, some in shock. Thomas continued before anyone could interrupt. "Some of you hate this. I know because you've said so. You've said humans and Draken should stay separate. You've said I'm betraying my own kind by befriending dragons. Someone even vandalized this piece, trying to destroy it before you could see it." Angry muttering began. Thomas raised his voice. "But here's what I learned about humans while working on this project. We are stubborn. When we decide something is right, we hold on with both hands and refuse to let go. Humans spent thousands of years learning to cooperate with each other, despite differences in appearance, language, and culture. We made mistakes. We fought wars. We hurt each other. But eventually, slowly, we learned that our differences make us stronger, not weaker." A Draken elder pushed through the crowd. Thomas recognized Vorath, one of the council members who had voted against the project. His dark green scales were rigid with anger. "This is an insult," Vorath declared. "You humans come to our world and immediately try to change our ways. You push your ideas of unity without respecting that Draken have maintained cultural purity for thousands of years. This sculpture is an abomination that dishonors both our peoples." "How does showing respect and collaboration dishonor anyone?" Thomas challenged. "This piece acknowledges that we're different. It celebrates those differences while showing they can coexist." "You do not understand Draken ways," Vorath said. "Solara dishonors her mate's memory by associating with you. She dishonors her clan. This must stop." Solara stood, her voice carrying across the square. "You do not speak for me, Vorath. You do not speak for my mate's memory. You speak only for fear disguised as tradition." The crowd erupted in competing shouts. Humans and Draken arguing with their own kind and with each other. The unity Thomas hoped to inspire seemed to be causing exactly the opposite. He felt his heart sink. This was a disaster. Then Celera did something unexpected. She climbed onto the stage and placed her clawed hand over Thomas's heart. The gesture silenced the crowd instantly. It was a Draen declaration of family, rarely done and deeply significant. "I declare Thomas Reed as family," Celera announced formally. "He and Ember are my clan. Anyone who challenges this challenges my honor directly." Shocked silence. Even Vorath looked stunned. This was serious business in Draken culture. A formal adoption carried legal and social weight. "It couldn't be done lightly, you cannot," Vorath sputtered. "He is alien. He is not even Draken." "Family is not defined by scales or skin," Celera said. "Family is defined by choice, loyalty, and love. Thomas has shown more honor than many born Draken. He has earned this place." Ember climbed on stage too, grabbing Thomas's hand and Celera's. "Thomas is family. He taught me how to build things. He taught Mama how to laugh again. He makes us happy. That's what family does." Thomas felt overwhelmed. He hadn't expected this. Celera had never mentioned making such a declaration. But looking at her fierce expression, at Ember's determined face, he felt something settle in his chest. This was right. This was home. "I'm honored," he managed to say. "More than I can express." Several humans stepped forward from the crowd. "If you're declaring the Carpenter as family, you're saying we're all family," one called out. "That's the point, right? That we can choose connection over division?" "That's exactly the point," another Draken said. "Our young ones already play together sometimes. Why should adults be more afraid than children?" The tide was turning. Thomas saw it in faces throughout the crowd. Not everyone agreed, but more voices joined in support than opposition. Young people especially seemed to embrace the idea. They hadn't grown up with the rigid separation their parents maintained. They were ready for change. Vorath's face darkened. "This is not over. Celera, you force my hand. I invoke trial by fire. Let us see if this human is truly worthy of being called Draken family." The crowd gasped. Even Celera looked shocked. "Vorath, you cannot be serious. Trial by fire is ancient. We have not used it in generations." "It remains part of our law," Vorath said. "Adopted family can be challenged." "I challenge. Thomas Reed must prove his worthiness or forfeit his place in your clan." "What is trial by fire?" Thomas asked quietly. Celera turned to him, her eyes full of worry. "It is a test. 3 parts. Physical, mental, spiritual. It is designed for Draken and is dangerous even for us. For a human—" She trailed off, the implication clear. "Can I refuse?" "Yes, but then Vorath wins. The adoption would be invalidated. Our family declaration would mean nothing." Thomas looked at the sculpture, at the colony divided before him, at Ember's frightened face and Celera's worried eyes. He thought about Marion, about her insistence that he keep living, keep building, keep trying. He thought about the last 3 years of isolation and the last 3 months of healing. He thought about what this family had given him: purpose, connection, hope. "I accept the challenge," Thomas said firmly. "For Ember, for Celera, for the family I've found. I accept." Vorath smiled coldly. "So be it. Trial begins at dawn tomorrow at the ancient grounds. Prepare yourself, human. You will need all your strength." As Vorath walked away and the crowd dispersed in excited chatter, Celera grabbed Thomas's arm. "You should not have agreed. This is foolish. You could die." "Maybe," Thomas said. "But running away won't change anyone's mind. Facing this will. Win or lose, at least I'll show that bridges are worth fighting for." Ember hugged his waist, crying. "I don't want you to get hurt." Thomas knelt down to her level. "Hey, remember what I taught you about woodworking? Sometimes you have to sand through rough spots to find the smooth wood underneath. This is just sanding through rough spots. It'll be okay." He hoped he was right. But as the festival continued around them and Thomas tried to enjoy the celebration, he couldn't shake the fear that tomorrow he would discover that some challenges were too great for even human stubbornness to overcome. Trial by fire and the new beginning dawn came too quickly. Thomas stood at the ancient Draken trial grounds, a circular arena of red stone carved into the hills outside the colony. Centuries ago, Draken had settled disputes here. The stone still bore scorch marks from old fires. The whole colony had gathered to watch, filling the terraced seating that surrounded the arena, human and Draken both, drawn by the spectacle and the significance. Thomas wore simple clothes. No armor, no protection. Trial by fire was meant to be faced honestly, Celera had explained through her worried tears last night. She had tried one more time to talk him out of this. Thomas had held her hands and told her he was sure. Now standing in the arena's center with the morning sun barely over the horizon, he was far less certain. Vorath entered the arena from the opposite side, flanked by 2 other Draken elders. He looked formal and severe, his dark scales gleaming. "Thomas Reed," Vorath called out, his voice carrying through the arena. "You claim worthiness to join a Draken clan. You claim the right to call yourself family to Sylara and her child. Today you will prove this claim or be revealed as unworthy. Do you understand the trial you face?" "I understand," Thomas said, his voice steadier than he felt. 3 tests, Vorath continued. First, physical endurance. You must withstand Draken fire. Second, mental clarity. You must solve an ancestral riddle while under duress. Third, spiritual strength. You must face your deepest fear made manifest. Failure in any test means failure of all. Do you still accept? Thomas looked up at the stands. He found Sylara and Ember sitting in the front row. Sylara's face was carved from stone, showing no emotion, but her claws gripped the seat so hard they left marks. Ember held her mother's arm, trying to be brave. Around them, colonists leaned forward, waiting. "I accept," Thomas said. "Then we begin." Vorath gestured, and one of the elder Draken brought forward a bowl of thick paste. "This is fire gel. Draken younglings use it when learning to control their flames. It offers some protection but is not designed for human skin. It will help, but it will not save you from pain." Thomas approached and let them spread the gel across his exposed skin. It felt cool at first, then began warming, tingling. His face, his arms, his neck all covered in the protective substance. "The first test begins now," Vorath announced. "You will stand in the center. I will breathe fire upon you. If you move, if you cry out, if you flee, you fail. You must endure until I choose to stop. Understand that I am not required to be merciful." Thomas took his position. His heart hammered against his ribs. He had seen Draken fire before, seen how they heated metal in seconds, how they could scorch stone. That fire was about to be directed at him. Every instinct screamed to run. He thought of Marion instead. Her face in sunlight, her laugh, the way she squeezed his hand during hard times. If she could face death with grace, he could face fire with courage. Vorath inhaled deeply, his chest expanding. Then he exhaled and the world became fire. Heat slammed into Thomas like a physical force. The gel protected somewhat, but fire found skin anyway. His arms, his face, places where the gel had worn thin or hadn't covered completely. Thomas felt his skin blister, felt pain like nothing he had ever experienced. The instinct to move, to dodge, to escape was overwhelming. But he stood still. He locked his knees, clenched his fists, and endured. He thought of Ember's smile, Sylara's wisdom, 3 months of healing that had brought him back to life. He would not let fire destroy what he had built. The flames stopped. Thomas swayed but stayed upright. His skin was red, blistered in places, screaming with pain. But he hadn't moved. Hadn't cried out. He opened his eyes and saw surprise on Vorath's face. "Humans are fragile," Vorath said slowly, "but perhaps not weak. The first test is passed." A Draken medic came forward, applying a cooling salve to Thomas's burns. It helped, but pain still radiated through him. Thomas barely heard the medic's words, focusing instead on staying conscious. "The second test," Vorath announced. "A riddle in the old tongue. Solve it correctly and you pass." He spoke in Draken, the ancient formal version that Thomas only partially understood. The words washed over him. Something about flames and stone, about hearts and homes. Thomas's mind, fuzzy with pain, struggled to grasp meaning. He knew some Draken language from his time with Sylara, but this was different. More poetic, more complex. He closed his eyes, thinking. What had Sylara taught him about Draken philosophy? Fire must be tended. Family is chosen. Honor comes from action, not birth. The riddle's words echoed in his head. Flames that don't burn, stone that feels, home that moves. Then it clicked. The answer was about family itself. Flames that warm but don't burn, love. Stone that feels, loyalty. Home that moves. Family travels with you, exists wherever your people are. Thomas spoke his answer in broken Draken, hoping he had the words right. Family is the fire that warms without burning, the stone that feels without breaking, the home that moves with you wherever you go. Vorath was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. The ancient riddle speaks of family bonds. You have answered correctly. Perhaps the human understands Draken ways better than expected. The second test is passed, 2 down, 1 to go. Thomas felt exhausted, his body screaming for rest. But the third test was reportedly the hardest. He looked up at Solara again. She had both hands pressed to her mouth, tears on her face. He tried to smile to reassure her. Not sure if he succeeded. The final test, Vorath said. 3 elders will enter your mind. They will find your deepest fear and make it real to you. What you experience will seem to happen truly. Though it is only vision, you must face this fear without being consumed by it. Most fail this test. Even Draen struggle with it. Are you ready? No, Thomas thought. But he said, yes. The 3 elders approached, forming a triangle around him. They placed their claws on his head and shoulders. Thomas felt something shift, reality bending, and then he was somewhere else. The hospital room. Marion's hospital room. Thomas knew this memory, this nightmare. His wife lying in bed, skin pale, breathing shallow. The plague had taken her strength so quickly. 1 week healthy, the next week dying. Thomas sat beside her, holding her hand, watching her slip away. I'm sorry, Marion whispered. Sorry to leave you. Don't, Thomas choked out. Don't apologize. Just fight. Please fight. But she couldn't. He watched her die again, felt his world end again, experienced the crushing moment when her hand went limp in his, and he was alone. Then the vision shifted. Now Solara lay in the bed. Same pale skin, same shallow breathing. Ember sat on the other side, crying. Thomas tried to reach for them but couldn't move. This is your fault, Vision Solara said. You brought human plague to us. You killed us with your weakness. No, Thomas said. That's not real. This isn't real. You destroy everything you love, Vision Marion said, appearing beside him. I died because you couldn't save me. Now they'll die too. Everyone you care about dies. The fear was crushing. What if he did bring harm to Solara and Ember? What if caring about them put them in danger? What if he was poison to everyone he loved? Thomas felt himself being pulled under, drowning in the fear. This was how the test worked. Let fear consume you and you failed. But how did you fight fear this deep? Then he remembered what Solara taught him. Don't fight the fire. Tend it. Don't deny grief. Integrate it. Don't resist fear. Accept it. You're part of me, Thomas said to the visions. The fear that I'll lose people I love. The guilt that I couldn't save Marion. The worry that I'm not good enough. All of that is part of me. I accept it. The visions wavered but didn't disappear. Vision Marion smiled sadly. Accepting isn't enough. You have to live with it. I know, Thomas said. Marion, you're gone. I miss you every day. That pain will never fully leave. But you also gave me 3 beautiful years and taught me how to love. That's part of me, too. He turned to Vision Solara and Ember. I might lose you. I might fail you. Those are real possibilities. Life doesn't come with guarantees. But the alternative is never caring about anyone again. And that's not life. That's just existing. I choose risk over emptiness. I choose connection over safety. The visions began fading. Thomas felt tears on his face. I carry pain and joy together. I remember the dead while loving the living. I accept fear while choosing courage anyway. That's what humans do. We don't separate light and dark. We hold both and keep moving forward. The hospital room dissolved. Thomas was back in the arena, gasping, tears streaming down his face. The 3 elders stepped back, looking at each other with expressions he couldn't read. Remarkable, one elder said. He did not fight the fear or succumb to it. He integrated it, made it part of his strength rather than his weakness. Humans carry their dead with them, another elder observed. They do not release grief but transform it. This is unusual wisdom. Vorath stood silent for a long moment. The entire arena waited. Finally, he spoke. Thomas Reed has passed all 3 tests. He withstood physical fire without flinching. He solved the ancestral riddle with understanding. He faced spiritual darkness and emerged whole. By Draken law, he is proven worthy. Vorath's voice softened slightly. More than worthy. He has shown courage and wisdom that honor both his species and ours. The arena erupted in cheers. Thomas collapsed to his knees, exhausted. Solara and Ember rushed from the stands, reaching him first. Ember threw her arms around his neck, sobbing. Solara knelt beside him, supporting his weight, her face wet with tears. You foolish brave man, she whispered. You could have died. But I didn't, Thomas said. And now nobody can say our family isn't real. Vorath approached, extending his hand in the human gesture. Thomas took it, struggling to his feet with Solara's help. I challenged you because I feared change, Vorath admitted. I thought maintaining separation kept us safe. But you have shown that bridges can be stronger than walls. I ask forgiveness for my harshness. Forgiveness given, Thomas said. If you're willing to learn from humans, I'm willing to learn more from Draen. Then let that learning begin today. Vorath looked at the crowd. Witness this. Thomas Reed is family to Solera's clan.
Anyone who disputes this disputes me as well.
Let this human carpenter be the first of many bridges between our peoples. The colony celebrated into the evening. The memorial sculpture in the square became a gathering place, humans and Draken standing together to honor the dead and celebrate the living. Children of both species played together openly now. Adults shared food, stories, and laughter across the species divide. Thomas spent the evening getting his burns properly treated while accepting congratulations from what seemed like every colonist. His workshop had never seen so many visitors. Human and Draken artisans discussed collaborating on future projects. The barriers were falling slowly but surely. As night settled, Thomas found himself back at his workshop with Solera and Ember. They sat on the porch together, watching stars appear. What now? Ember asked. What do we do now that everything changed? Now we keep building, Thomas said. Keep teaching. Keep learning. Keep being family. I'm teaching a cross-cultural class next week, Solera said. Humans learning Draken customs, Draken learning human ways. 30 people signed up already. Your trial inspired them. Thomas shook his head. I didn't do anything special. I just refused to let fear win. That is what humans do best, Solera said gently. You face impossible odds and try anyway. You break but don't stay broken. You carry grief and still choose joy. This is your gift to the galaxy. And our gift? Ember asked. You teach us to tend fire properly, Thomas said, squeezing her hand. To honor tradition while embracing change. To be strong while staying open. We make each other better. 6 months later, Thomas's workshop had expanded to twice its original size, built in a blend of human and Draken architecture. He taught classes to students of both species. Solera's counseling center thrived, helping families across cultural lines. The colony had become a model of cooperation, hosting visitors from other worlds who wanted to learn how to bridge their own divisions. Thomas and Solera's relationship had deepened into something permanent. They courted by both human and Draken customs, a blending of traditions that made Ember giggle and other colonists smile. Wedding plans were forming, though organizing a ceremony that honored both cultures was proving complicated. Thomas didn't mind. Complicated meant rich, full, alive. One evening, a new alien species arrived in the colony. Tall insectoid beings looking to establish trade. Their young representative approached Thomas's workshop, seeing him working outside. Excuse me, sir, the representative said in translated speech. I am told you are the one who builds bridges between species. My people are new here. We are unsure how to integrate. You look like someone who has solved this problem. Could you help us? Thomas smiled, setting down his tools. Before he could answer, Ember ran out from the workshop, her wings now large enough for short flights. Oh, she exclaimed. Are you new? My human father can definitely help you. He's really good at making friends with different people. Let me tell you about him. As Ember enthusiastically explained the colony's history to the bewildered alien, Thomas caught Solera's eye through the workshop window. She smiled at him with warmth and pride. His Marion would have loved this, Thomas thought. She would have been right here beside him, building bridges, creating family, choosing love over fear. The sun set over Redstone Valley, painting the sky in familiar colors. Two species that once lived separately now walked the streets together, greeting each other, sharing their lives. Children played in mixed groups. Families formed across old boundaries. And in a workshop that once held only silence and grief, laughter rang out as an alien child learned that home wasn't about where you came from, but who you chose to stand beside. Thomas picked up his tools again, ready to build whatever came next. After all, that's what carpenters did. They took raw materials and created something beautiful. They took separate pieces and joined them into something stronger. They built things that lasted, things that mattered, things that sheltered the people they loved. And love, Thomas had learned, was the strongest building material of all.